We do have with us Vince Onyekwelu, who is a former British police officer. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thanks for having me.
Last time you were here, we were discussing kidnapping.
That's right.
But right now, it would seem that there are new security concerns. But let's quickly look at this matter that the DSS talked about on Saturday. You've seen the outcry so far, the legal outcry, or is it controversy that has stemmed out of the DSS operations? But then there was an element to it, which is a sting operation. The DSS did announce that their operations came on the back of sting operations carried out by the DSS itself. What can you tell us about sting operations?
Thank you. Obviously, we have to understand one of the major concepts of a sting operation is deceit. Deceit. And when you talk about deceit, sting operations are planned to have this element of propaganda, element of treachery, element of make-believe, element of trying to deceive a potential criminal for you to be able to arrest that potential criminal. That is the main focus about sting operations. And now, when you talk about sting operations, you have to understand that members of the law enforcement agencies could even have to work with members of the public to make a certain criminal to do certain things that will enable them to arrest the person. Now, when you now compare the importance of a sting operation in the person of justices of Nigeria and judges of Nigeria, that can make you to ask your question, is a sting operation the best thing for this particular target potential criminals? Because in sting operation, we have what you call the status of entrapment, that when you do a sting, you have to be careful that you're not coercing the targets to actually commit a crime. Because when you make them to, so for example, somebody is a drug dealer and you come as a police officer on the cover agent and say that, go make me some drugs, go find me some drugs. They can actually say that you coerce them to go and look for the drugs to sell to you. But if they already have the drugs, say, I want to buy, and they produce it and give it to you, you can say you are a dealer. So we have to be very careful about sting operations. Secondly, in sting operations, based on what I heard about the DSS, we have to respect the roles the DSS play, the police play, because these gentlemen and ladies kind of take the highest level of risk from the moment they leave their homes to come and serve the country. Remember, the main difference between the police officer and the army officer is the army officer protects the country, whereas the police officer protects you and myself. They enforce the law. They protect the public. So they've got this huge amount of work they do, and they face such different kinds of risks. My concern is, in a sting operation, based on my frontline experiences, there are things you should expect should be in place. For example, there's what we call the outer shell. So you probably want to block the entrance to the streets. If it's a crescent, if it's a road, you have to block the entrance. To the property, you have to block the entrance. Position men at critical areas. It makes me to believe or to ask question, how come the governor had access to go through this outer shell to come to the epicenter that he was able to influence what was going on there? You're supposed to have an outer shell that is well trained to contain and to stop any kind of person from a politically exposed person that have got so much power. He can tell you his concerns, you record them in your notebook and promise to get back to them in the next 24 hours, but not to give them access to influence what is going on. Then it makes me to ask, what were they doing? Were they well trained? Were they capable? Were they competent to do what they were supposed to be doing?
So you believe that there was no outer shell that could have prevented. So you did not see a role for the governor in that particular sting operation, as it were.
To be very honest, and I play to the books. I'm opportunity to be trained by almost the best police academy in the world. When you're doing an arrest operation, you don't allow any trespassers to come involved. But you should be able to have stopped the governor from getting involved. The moment you allow the governor, because of his presence, to get involved, you start asking yourself questions, where have you failed? Unfortunately, in Nigeria, a lot of people don't take responsibility for their failures.
But there are two different things. If there was a sting operation, that's on the one hand, some people will say. There's also the arrest operation. I'll give you an instance. I recall that the first time we heard about a sting operation in public domain in this country, it was not too long ago. It was during the oil subsidy saga where a former member of the House of Representatives, well, then he was a member of the House of Representatives, and he was chairing the oil subsidy probe panel, and oil mogul, I think it's Mr. Otadela, there was some controversy, between what had transpired between them, and then he claimed to have carried out a sting operation, audios of which we later heard. I think that matter was later on taken to court, but it came out much, 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 much later, and people questioned why was it that no arrest was effected immediately, because according to them, one of the things that they claimed was that a sting operation catches you in the act. Is that right?
That's right.
So you must be able to catch the person in the act. If you don't do that, would that still be termed a sting operation?
It's not about the term here. It's about if a crime has been committed or was being committed or is seen to be committed. It doesn't mean that if you're going to look for a drug cartel and you see human parts on the floor inside the compound, you're not going to neglect the human part. It's actually going to be considered immediately. So obviously, I like the part that you talked about, the history of sting operations. It started right in 1973, and obviously it's based on drama to catch the criminals in the act. But it makes me to ask the question, is there a need to catch these gentlemen in the act? Because I believe they've been doing their surveillance, they've been doing their investigation, they've been monitoring these gentlemen, these judges, these justices. So I would believe that, when you're planning a sting operation, you look at the risks. When you talk about risk, how many occupants of the house are there? How many men live in this particular house? How many women are there? Are they young? What is their age range? I believe the age range of most of the judges are about 60. Some are less than 60, some are above 60 years. I've done my research. And you're thinking, is there need for this use of unnecessary force, unnecessary presence to speak to a responsible member of the public? Let me make this clear. Nobody is above the law. Even the judge, the justice is not above the law. Even the Army General, the police IG is not above the law. They all work under the ambit of the law. But when you now want to use appropriate force, do you need to take 20 men or 30 men to do this operation? Because you're supposed to know how many people are inside those premises. You have to know their credibility. Are they dangerous to you? Are they men? Are they women? So you know what to form in your team that you're going with. So the ladies have to deal with the ladies there. The men will deal with the men. So when you go there, you have to identify yourself. If you want to knock on the door, if you want to use a mic, a loudspeaker to announce your presence, or you want to knock on the door to tell the security men who you are, you announce yourself. When they fail...
Is that a sting? Would that still be a sting operation, or that's an arrest?
No, in a sting operation, you're allowed to arrest.
Okay.
You are allowed to arrest, and you can still de-arrest after arresting. It's allowed.
First and foremost, there's so many things that happened that not exactly out there in the public. Let's start with the ones that we know. From the point of law, what is required of the arresting authorities? Now, if we turn to the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 6, let me just take two parts of that. Well, 6.2 subsection 2 says, the police officer or the person making the arrest or the police officer in charge of a police station shall inform the suspect of his right to A, remain silent or avoid answering any question until after consultation with a legal practitioner or any other person of his own choice. B, consult a legal practitioner of his choice before making, endorsing, or writing any statement or answering any question put to him after arrest. And it has some other provisions. But how do we then verify whether or not the appropriate procedure such as this one was carried out by the arresting authority, in this case, the DSS?
Oh, fantastic questions there. Obviously, from the best practice around the world, there was something I would be very interested to find in this certain sting operation, and that is the presence or the use of ICT. We call it different names across the world. Some people call it body-worn videos. Some people call it body cameras. It's got different names. If they are aware the presence of such technology, there are different types. There are the ones you can put in your eyeglasses, in your helmet, or even right there on your chest, or even on your epaulette. Now, with the presence of this, the law enforcement agencies can have so much credible evidences that can be used to make their prosecutions. In the absence of this, a lot of make-believes. Remember, sting operations has to do with deceit. It has to do with deception. So when you are doing a sting operation that you know that is based on deception, you have to protect yourself with a kind of gadget that gives you that balanced evidence. You don't need to show us the whole evidences, but you can give us a 10-second clip, for example, to show when you read them they are right. For example, to show when they refuse to open the door to give you access, which obviously led to you to break down their doors. A 10-second clip of this from this body camera can also show you the exact spot in the person's house where you found this huge amount of different currencies. The same technology can actually show you when you are actually counting these currencies to actually show that the figures that you give to the public is actually accurate. Remember, whether you are DSS or whether you are Army or whether you are police, you are working for the public, and you have to have confidence to relate to the public, to give them some information that makes them to have that belief and trust that you are there to protect their interests. It's very bad to project yourself as a bad police officer. It's better for you to project yourself as a good police officer. And communication, if the body camera was there, it would give them so much evidence for them to back up. Don't give us all, give us a bit so we can have something to rely that you followed due diligence.